Welcome to our March 2024 Teacher Chat. I'm Rebecca Trevelise, and I live in Austin, Texas, and I run a music, art, and dance studio called Austin Arts Academy. We have about 230 students and about 17 teachers, and I love what I do. I love teaching, but I also love creating, and so that's what launched Music Game Club. Is we needed more music theory resources for our students. And yeah, so we love playing games. I'm a very competitive person, and my students also love playing games. Amanda, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Amanda Taro. I'm the project manager / writer at Music Game Club. So most often if you get emails, they're from me. And so you probably see my name around a lot. I've taught piano since I was in my teens and a little bit of violin as well. Right now my studio is reduced and I've moved last year and I'm getting married actually this month. So yeah, I'm in the middle of like a lot of moves, and so kind of waiting to see where I settle before I decide if I do a local studio. So I do primarily online teaching, which we recently started doing boom cards at Music Game Club, and I use those all the time in my studio because they're so easy to use both in person but also online. So just for a question, and I will start, is what game did you play with your students this week? You can either answer in the chat, or if you want to unmute yourself and answer in audio. So one of the games I played is actually one of our brand new games. It's Magpie Melodies. It was deck 2. And I think it's like ear training and sight reading deck. But basically you have a song and it's missing a measure. And the student has to listen to it, figure out, I think there's 2 measure options, and they have to drag and drop the correct measure to the missing measure. And so I did it with actually one of my violin students. She's probably still late beginner level. And at first it was a little hard for her because some of the melodies are going, at speed. And so she's like, oh, I'm having a hard time following along. But by the time we played through, I think it's like 15 cards, she was like getting them like this. And she thought it was super fun because it was like you had to complete the song. So that was the game I played this week in my studio, and would love to hear what y'all are playing in y'all's studios this week.
So I have a question. I was looking at the Magpie Melodies game and I didn't see it in the store. Is it in the store yet?
Yes and no. The Boom Cards bundle is in the store, and the printable game is in the shop, and it may have just like gone live an hour or so ago.
Oh, okay. I checked a couple of days ago because I saw it in an email.
Yeah, so it's live on the 1st. It's live on the 1st of the...
Oh, it's the April game.
This is the March game.
Is that right? Oh, wait,
yes.
March. Sorry, it's not. Okay.
Yeah, so if you got an email, it was probably like hey, this is coming, and it wasn't in the shop yet.
Right.
Now it's in the shop.
Okay. I actually played 4 Foxes this week. Yeah, it was good. My student liked it.
That's cute. Yeah, I've been playing the board game of Magpie Melodies this week. But my daughter, who's just turned 9, 4 Foxes is one of her favorite games to play. She just,
yeah.
All right. Well,
my student is 9 too. My student who played it is 9. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, definitely resonates with that age group.
Yes, just the right age.
So our topic that we are going to chat about today is called Helping Students Who Struggle with Putting Notes and Rhythm Together. So we have note reading games and we have rhythm games, but some students need help coordinating the two. So I have a few things that I have utilized in the past. The first 4 are just sitting at the piano and utilizing the music in front of them. So if you clap and say the note names, that's one way. And if you clap and count the rhythm, so if it's like, for instance, E, D, C, D, and then that's the beginning of Mary Had a Little Lamb. And then if they clapped and counted the 1, 2, 3, 4, that helps reinforce it. If they play the notes on the piano and say the note names at the same time, and if they play the note name, if they play their notes on the piano and count the rhythm at the same time. So usually the problem is when they get into something that's not steady, like a quarter note. So then they hit a half note, but it still sounds like a quarter note. Or in my instance, last week, I have a boy that is in piano pronto prelude, and he was learning Skip to My Lou, and he played it, his eighth note. So he plays his eighth notes way too fast. So it sounded like this: Lou, Lou, Skip to my Lou. So he holds it and then he just bangs it out, so it's like way too fast. It's like, oh goodness, okay. So he's just internalized that. I know he practices that way at home. He holds on to those quarter notes and then he just squeezes in those eighth notes as quick as he can right before the next measure. So I have been playing a lot the teacher duets parts with him. We've talked about the rhythm. He's clapped it. He's said it. He's heard me sing it while he plays it. So he's slowly but surely getting better, but he does have a bad habit of when he goes home to practice by himself, he kind of reverts back to his old habits. He is getting better. That same student is also learning Robotic Rise by Wendy Stevens, which is full of quarter notes and eighth notes, and it moves all over the piano, and he's super excited. It's one of his recital pieces. After the first week of him practicing at home by himself, he came back to the lesson. There were big pauses. For the most part, his notes were correct, but he had these big pauses throughout the music. And so I pretended like I was a robot. I was like, you cannot stop. I was like, you have to keep playing, because he would play like a motive, like he would play a couple of measures and then pause, reposition, and keep going. So I did that multiple times. Of course, he was laughing. He thought I was being silly. I was like, you cannot stop. And I played it for him multiple times. He would play it, then I would play it. Then he would play it. And while he's playing, I'm like marching around like this, like, don't stop, don't have a pause. And it worked. The next week he came back, problem solved. There were no pauses in his music. So sometimes being silly or adding certain words, a lot of times for students, when they are trying to tackle that quarter note, eighth note, and getting those eighth notes even, I'll use walk for the quarter note and running for the eighth notes. So walk, walk, running, walk, walk, running, walk. Or just making up lyrics. Like if they like cats, maybe you could talk about cats, like say kitten something, like make something fun for them to remember. And maybe that rhythm you sang or singing that rhythm will help them match it to their notes. Also, if you just break it, if you isolate the problem, break it into a smaller segment, sometimes that can be a faster success if you just isolate the problem. And don't feel, I would say repeat the trouble spots often. So like maybe do it 3 times. Okay, let's play the piece again. You can still hear that it's an issue. Hey, let's isolate. Can we do that? Can we do this one measure? Can we do these 2 measures 3 times again? And maybe back and forth. So obviously we have to be sensitive not to belabor the point of, okay, this is a mistake area. You don't want to belabor it. You just want to focus on it for a short amount of time, maybe do something else, play the piece again, focus on it. My goal as a teacher is to always teach them how to isolate a problem and give them tools on how to solve what the problem is. So last night I was teaching a student, and I will show you the music example because this one's a little more advanced. Let me share my screen with you. So she is playing Let's Quest Volume 3 by Chrissy Ricker. She is playing a piece called Gone in 5. Sorry, I'm on my laptop, which I'm normally not on my laptop. We have a makeup cello lesson happening downstairs, and my office area is too exposed to be in a meeting. So here we go, share screen. So this is the measure. When she got to this measure, so she was sight reading it for the first time. I played the whole song for her, and then she's reading through it. She gets to this section, and it was just, she couldn't do it. Like it was just her right hand was stopping, her left hand would not do the right rhythm. She could not coordinate the correct notes with the correct rhythm. So after trying a few times and just kind of letting her try to figure it out, she wasn't getting super frustrated. She knew it was a tricky spot. She's crossing her left hand over. It's a syncopated rhythm. Her right hand is continuing to play. So this is how I approached it. I told her, I said, your right hand is the metronome. You have to don't let your right hand stop, because her right hand kept stopping when she would reach over with her left to play that high D. So that was her first challenge, is no matter what, keep that right hand going. Then I said, playing 4 different notes, well, it's 3 different notes, but it's a pattern of 4 notes. Why don't this is what I wanted you to do. I don't have my piano turned on. But I said, I want you to cross over and just do this rhythm pattern, stay on the D. So instead of D, C, D, F, she's just going to go D, 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 D. So she's just going to get those fingers and hands moving at the same time. The notes are wrong because she's staying on D, but it's teaching her left hand that this is the pulse, this is the correct rhythm, while this hand is doing something else. So it took her maybe 2 or 3 tries, and then she got it. And so she was super excited. I was super excited. Yeah, okay. So now you've coordinated your hands. Now we have to, so I had her do that several more times to kind of really nail down, like, this is the rhythms together. Okay, now let's add the correct melody. So it took her a couple of times, and then she got it, and she had it the rest of the lesson. So that is one way for more advanced students, even for more beginner students. If they're really struggling with the rhythm, you can take it and just take the note element out and then add the note element back in. Let's see. I think those are my, so those are my biggest takeaways as a teacher, especially just recently seeing some of my students have issues. Kristen, do you have anything to share, or Amanda?
So yeah, I've got a couple of thoughts. So as I was thinking about this topic, one of the thoughts I had was that sometimes we as teachers help our students have this struggle even worse because we're too good at like accompanying them on duets or whatever. Like we're like, I caught myself doing that with my students, is like they're pausing, so I pause to wait for them. And I realized that doing that, I'm actually training them to not stay with the rhythm, stay with the flow of the music. So sometimes what I do is, well, I'll talk about it openly, be like, okay, well, we're going to play this duet together, and I'm going to keep going no matter what you do. I'm going to keep going. And of course, I can usually like point with an extra hand to kind of show them, okay, here's where I am, and help them to come back into it. Of course, the first time is usually really terrible, and they might mess up on measure 3, and then they can't get back until, and then I play through measure 12, and I like keep pointing with here's where I am, and they never come back in. But after doing that a few times, they get confident, and then they can jump back in. And so I find that helps with helping students, because getting them to do it by themselves, like, oh, get your notes coordinated with your rhythms perfectly, it's really hard because they're kind of like grasping thin air. We have to like train their ear with this. And so I have found that, like Rebecca said, doing duets really helps. But I found that doing duets in a way that it's like, I'm not enabling them to continue this, is a challenge for me, but that's something that also helps. I also have used in the past the Piano Adventures sight reading app. Now, Piano Adventures has 2 apps. They have a music book app, and I believe it's the same price for the music book. So like it's like $6.99 for the level you're in, or $7.99. I haven't seen it in a while. And they have like a playback track for everything, and it has like the bar that goes along with it, if I'm not mistaken. I actually have never used it. I've used the samples, but I've never used that. I use their sight reading app, which it actually scores them, and it will click off, and then it does nothing, and then it just like mutes, and the student has to play it. And it gives them points according to if they were too long or hit a wrong note or anything like that. And I noticed a big improvement on my students' sight reading and putting things together by doing that. And what I love with the sight reading app is it gives like, I think it has 5 different pieces per week, and it all circles around like one hand position or one song, one concept. And it will just do it in different ways. So it's not the same sight reading, because once you've read it once, it's no longer sight reading, but it changes it just enough to where it makes it new and interesting, and the student has to be paying attention. So I did notice really good progress with my students with doing this. And then something I thought of while you were talking, Rebecca, about, getting, well, actually there's 2 things I was thinking of. Well, your student that was having the, getting those coordinated. Number 1 is, depending on the level of the student and the difficulty they're having, I will play one hand while they play the other hand, because sometimes there's just so much going on, and especially depending on their cognizant development, they may or may not actually be able to keep track of everything. So basically, like you were saying, make it shorter, make it smaller, reduce what they're thinking about. That's another way I do that is, so I would play the metronome hand and have them play the left hand. And then another thing I do is I remind my students that it's okay to have a lot of prep work. Like, a lot of times we sit there and we think we have to play the music exactly perfectly without any aids or anything. Like, that's the sign of a good musician. And we kind of expect our students to do that. Or I don't know, maybe I'm the only one who struggles with that, but so I have definitely. And so I've gotten to where I'll tell my students, like, okay, let's look at this music before you play it, and let's, like, what looks tricky to you. And so things like what the excerpt Rebecca showed, sometimes I will pencil or have them draw lines to connect what goes together. When does your left hand note, syncopated note, hit where your right hand is? And so having them do that, I know some students do really well with colors. There's highlight markers, I think we've talked about in our meetings before. So anything that can kind of help them line it up, because maybe the problem is, like, they might not be dyslexic, but they might be having trouble exactly lining things up. And that might be, they might be trying to look at your right hand note, left hand note, right hand note, left hand note instead of at the same time. And that could be something that's slowing your students down when they're trying. That might be why they can't get their rhythm and their notes at the same time, is because they're thinking too, I guess, singularly. And so sometimes helping them, giving them aids before they play the music, or maybe after they play the music and they're struggling, be like, okay, what can we do to kind of help you see how this is laid out together? I've also found that has helped. And yeah, I think the last thing I would have to say is just to remember to train their ear, because I think a lot of it, if they're struggling with getting their notes and their rhythm together, it's an ear problem. I mean, it could be a logical problem, but to me, it feels like it's an ear problem. Like, they need to be able to feel the rhythm. They need to be able to see that the pitches go up and hear that they went down instead of going up. So I think training their ear can also help them with that. And so sometimes for that is, I'll play the excerpt how they're playing it, and I'll play it the right way. Of course, if they have internalized their wrong way, they might have a hard time hearing which one's correct. And so, yeah, that might be something to catch them sooner than later. But I'll play it like 2 different ways, like which way is accurate, whether it's a rhythm issue or a note issue. And yeah, so those are the tips that I have in thinking about this topic. And it really is just so individual, because different students, like, you really have to figure out what their problem is. Are they struggling because they can't get the rhythm? So they might actually mess up on their notes, but it might actually be a rhythm problem. It might be because they're so focused on the rhythm because they're weak there that they're not paying attention to their notes. Or is it a note reading thing? And, because sometimes, like, it might just be a rhythm thing, and their notes and their rhythm aren't meshing well, but once you get the rhythm, they can do it great. And then the other way around, once they get the notes, they can get the rhythm in. So yeah, I think a lot of it's just problem solving and figuring out, okay, 3 students can have the exact same problem, but different foundational issues, like different reasons why they're struggling with that. So yeah, figuring that out is definitely helpful.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Yes, I like the A-B choice. I've done that with my students before. And I always tell them, hey, I'll give you bonus points if you can tell me what I did wrong in the wrong one. Because I really want them to understand, like, what is wrong about that. Like, they might be able to hear that it's different, but they go, okay, well, whatever. I'll take your word at it for you, teacher. You know, it's like, I want them to have that knowledge. So yeah, awesome. All right. Did you want to chat about our game for this month? I actually have a little video I'd love to share. On Tuesday night, one of our piano classes, there were 3 girls in a piano class, and they played Magpie Melodies for the first time. It's just a couple minutes long.
Oh, that'd be good. So while you get your screen sharing, I'll just kind of go over the game. If I can find my... Yeah, so Magpie Melodies, I love this game, and it has so much for it. There are these very colorful melody cards, which are actually 8 melodies that students know. Mary Had a Little Lamb, Ode to Joy. So the original gameplay is just identifying if it starts on the median, you move forward 3, the dominant moves forward 5, and tonic, these are of course in C major. And of course I can't find a tonic now that I'm looking for one. Okay, and the tonic, move forward 1. Whoever gets farthest wins, but you can use it in so many different ways. We have, of course, our beautiful success poster, and then a guide card, and the activity sheet, and the instructions there. But yeah, it's kind of an overview of the game. But yeah, you could show it in action. You're on mute.
Okay, can y'all see that okay? So if you land on a bug, then you get to go 2 bonus, because it's like you got a snack. Like
What if you got a stick?
Oh my goodness. A stick. You have to wait a turn. You still draw a card, but you wait a turn because you're building a nest.
Oh,
Okay.
that's funny.
So there are just a few specialty spots that you can land on. Okay, so land. Oh, and you know what? We need to replace these every time. So sorry, I didn't give you a chance to see that. So yeah, so we need to replace this one. So that, yes, that's dominant. So you just lay it down. All right, Shay.
Is there a limit to the amount of dominance you can have?
No, it can be no. For this version of the game, you can pick here, or here.
I drew.
That's okay. Yeah.
I draw.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Nice.
Y'all are all way ahead on the board, all lined up here. Okay. Natalie or Ava, it's your turn.
I don't want to just.
Okay. So what did that?
That's.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be like supertonic. So yeah. So you just lay down. Yeah. So you just stay where you're at.
Supertonic. Do it like this.
So this would be subdominant because it's right below dominant. So sub underneath, like so. But for this game, we're just working on.
Oh, that's dominant.
Wow. Okay.
Y'all are taking a chance. Wait, I forgot to. Oh
no, you didn't.
Okay. I'm looking for 3. I'm looking for 3. Sorry.
Yeah, and what is that called?
Median.
Median. Good. All right. So go ahead.
Okay. I one of those.
So next turn, you just draw your card and stay there for your turn.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead. Next turn. Okay, so you can see that was just like the beginning part of the game, but they were catching on. We have the guide cards, so I handed one to each student, but they're 9 to 11 years old, the 3 girls, so they quickly understood that C is do is 1 is tonic, and E is median is 3 is. So they caught on really quick. Yeah, and then of course I was laying little bits of more information like, oh, you got a card that started on D, so she didn't get to move because you're only moving on tonic, median, and dominant. But then I planted that seed of, oh, well, that's called supertonic. Oh, and this card already laying out is an F, so that would be considered subdominant in the key that we're in. So yeah, super fun game.
All right, so it's giveaway time.
Yay.
And only one of you showed up, so you automatically win. I don't think you're still a member, right, Kristen?
Oh, you're on mute.
No.
I'm not right now. I have been,
Okay.
but I'm not at the moment.
All right, well, you get this game for free then, the printable game. So I will
Thank
send you a
you.
link. You're welcome.
All right, thank you.
All right, and then one more thing before we wrap up. So we wanted to announce that we are going to be part of Group Illuminated. So Group Illuminated is a conference for group piano teachers by group piano teachers. It's www.groupilluminated.com. And what's really good about it is that number one, it's virtual. So you don't have to like worry about driving somewhere to get it. And then number two, it's on demand. So for June and July, you have access to all of the videos. I don't even know how many presenters they actually have, but I know it's growing every single year. And there's a lot of great presenters. We're going to, of course, be presenting how to play games in group lessons. And if you use our coupon code, you'll get $50 off. Our coupon code is MGC50 for a $50 discount. So yeah, I guess you could pre-register now. And we will be having our little talk, coming up in June or July. So we're super excited about that. So I wanted to mention that to everyone who's watching this after the fact, whatever. Y'all can also be a part of Group Illuminated. And like I said, code MGC50 to get $50 off. And yeah, if you've never done group teaching, this would be the place to start, because there's all these teachers and they make it easy. They just give you a lot of information, or even if you are group teaching, it's like you can learn from observing what other people are doing. So it's really cool what they're doing. Super excited to be a part this year.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that wraps everything up, unless you had any questions or comments, Kristen.
I don't. Thank you. There's a lot of helpful information in here. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, and we look forward to seeing everybody on the April 1st. So
not me. It's going to be Rebecca's going solo. I will have so I'm going to be off.
We'll be thinking of you, and we wish you happy wedding.
Thank you.
We'll see everybody on April 1st. Right.